So with there being 10 days left in NBA free agency, a lot of the biggest moves have already been made in the first 3 days. And one winner I have so far is my Miami Heat. Because going into this offseason, there was a lot of questions. Coming off a season when they went to the finals, Miami severely underperformed in the playoffs, going out first round to the Bucks in a 4-0 sweep, a team that they pretty much handled the year before, and it brought up a lot of questions. Does Miami value Tyler Hero a little too much? Do they have the young core and talent to maybe trade for a bigger guy? Is Jimmy Butler truly worth the money he's getting? And with cap space through the roof and not, I guess, the greatest amount of young talent in the league, how could they rework this team? They could become contenders again. And I gotta say, Pat Riley did an amazing job. So going into this, Miami had a couple hitting points that they definitely needed to get. One was a veteran point guard that can definitely handle the point guard duties but also be a second scorer. While Goran Dragic filled that role really well, he's regressed severely in the past couple years, especially this year, and it looked like it was time for the team to move on from him. And the Miami Heat expertly filled that role with Kyle Lowry, a player that had connections with Jimmy Butler already and a guy that fit the Miami Heat culture. A very good defender, a very good passer, shooter, and point guard overall, averaging 17, 7, and 5 overall last season. Coming here, his job won't be as strenuous as it was in Toronto the last 2 years. It will more likely be the year with Kawhi, where he does have two other players that can handle the load on offense a little bit more. He will definitely most likely be a third option on offense when it comes to scoring, but will always have the ball in his hands making decisions and always have open shots to get himself in rhythm. Another hole the Miami Heat needed to hit was to find a big man to play next to Bam Adebayo, either taking the center spot and letting Bam play his true position, or double down on small ball and make it a lot easier for Bam to be able to switch on the perimeter, and rebounding being a team issue, not necessarily a big man issue. And the Miami Heat went out and got that with both Markieff Morris and PJ Tucker, two hard-nosed great defenders who are great shooters, specifically at the corner. Two guys that can definitely give Bam the space he needs to work on the perimeter. Two guys they can definitely count on to hit big shots when you need them if they're open. And most importantly, guys that fit that grit and grind Heat culture, that aren't afraid to get dirty and are willing to actually put in some work down low and actually has the size and strength to actually make a difference. And lastly, the Miami Heat needed to do either two things. Spend the money you would on Duncan Robinson and Kendrick Nunn to pick up another elite scorer, or if those aren't available, since this free agency was lacking in that specific category, re-sign Duncan Robinson and just get a collection of guys that can definitely put the ball in the basket, and re-sign some of your two-way guys to come off the bench so you have a second unit. And they did the latter, re-signing Duncan Robinson to a $90 million contract, re-signing Gabe Vincent, KZ Akpala still on the team, and signing a standout in the Summer League right now in Yurtsevin. And what I thought was the most surprising move, since I thought he was definitely a lost cause, but it seems like he's betting on himself with a one-year contract to play better this year, and that is Victor Oladipo. They re-signed him, who looks like he will be back in around January, coming into the second unit with Tyler Hero, Gabe Vincent, and Markieff Morris and Yurtsevin. So to fill out this team, the Miami Heat definitely hit most of what they're looking for this offseason. Obviously, you'd much rather the elite scorer, but they did what they could with the money they had, and they created a very good team. But where this team I think will excel the most is on the defensive end, because the only two holes on defense on this entire team that I see right now is both Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, who are individually not going to be on the floor at the same time, so you can definitely cover them. And with two elite perimeter defenders like Kyle Lowry and Jimmy Butler, and some great interior defense and perimeter defense from PJ Tucker, and a defensive player of the year candidate in Bam Adebayo down low, this team will look like to be a hell for a lot of teams. The pick and roll will not be a way you can get a good switch to maybe get a mismatch, since Bam Adebayo is probably one of the best perimeter defending centers in the league. PJ Tucker is also one of the better defenders. So most likely there will only be one player that you can consistently attack on the defensive end at a time on the court in Duncan Robinson or Tyler Hero. And even though they're not very good defenders, they are very willing defenders and they will try. And most likely in those situations, there will be double teams, and this team is very good at being able to recover and switch onto their man. Not to mention the second unit, if Oladipo can get back any of the groove he had a couple years ago, or even just he was getting into last season before his injury, he can definitely be an amazing spark off the bench and give Miami an even better time at resting both Kyle Lowry or Jimmy Butler, since technically they're both getting up in age and they can't pay the excessive minutes that they used to. And offense, I do still see Miami running the same perimeter-oriented, heavy three-point game, since this team is full of a lot of shooters outside of, I guess, Jimmy Butler. And even then, he's been shooting more from deep. Not to mention, one of Bam's almost incredibly underrated skills is being able to give a perfect handoff while setting a great screen to get shooters like Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, and even now Kyle Lowry open for easy looks. You have somebody in Kyle Lowry and Jimmy Butler that's very good at penetrating in the paint and can definitely kick out to somebody like Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, or PJ Tucker or Markieff Morris. You have a second unit center in Yurtseven that's not only provides some pretty good interior defense, but is also a great shooter and can provide some space down low for either Dedmon or Bam if he's on the court, either of them, since given some time, he may be a player that can develop to play next to Bam instead of coming off the bench behind him, and that will be able to move Bam to his preferred position at the power forward spot. So overall, I give Pat Riley an incredibly great hand at what he's able to build. The only problem I have with these moves is the amount of money we gave Jimmy Butler. 4 years, $184 million, and we'll be paying him $50 million at the age of 35. While I agree with a lot of these moves, and I'm very much for anybody getting their money, simply as a fan of the team, this puts us in a very precarious spot to win now instead of win later, considering should this team fall apart and any of these players regress heavily, it will be hell to trade them and will most likely need to be bought out of these contracts, and that will put us in an even bigger and worse position later on down the line. But these have been some incredibly good moves, and I cannot say anything more about Pat Riley and the way he's been able to build teams to compete. We tried to run it back last season. One, we were coming off a year where this team had very little rest, a lot of expectations, and I did not think we met them. And I think we had a lot of things working against us, but this year there's no excuses and this team is definitely better. And I see us as maybe probably the third to fourth best team in this Eastern Conference behind Brooklyn and the Milwaukee Bucks. But I'm very excited to see what we have to do next season or what we can offer. But with that being said, remember to like and subscribe. If you enjoyed these videos, let me know. I'll be doing one on the Lakers and the Chicago Bulls. But with that being said, this is the FLB. That's my time, and I'm out.